Good morning everyone, my name is Michelle. I hope you're doing well. Welcome to another video. It is Thursday morning. Quite a few people have come into my comments section in the last few hours and asked me what my opinion is about the ex-pathologist who has been talking to the British media. I believe it's the Daily Mirror that's the first outlet to talk about this, and other media have used their article to kind of piggyback their articles off. This is in regard to the police going back to the River Wire in search of whatever they're searching for in the Nicola Bulley case. So we're going to talk about that in this video. Actually, today I was going to talk about autopsies in relation to the Nicola Bulley case based on a comment that I had a couple of days ago that I wanted to address because I think it's a valid comment and we need to talk about it. But first, before we get into Nicola Bulley, I'm going to take this opportunity, where this video might get a few eyes on it, to publicise the missing woman from North Wales. She's called Osra Plungian, and I'm really sorry if I'm pronouncing her name wrong. She's 56 and she's been missing since about 10:30 a.m. was the last sighting of her on Tuesday of this week. And she's a keen hiker, and she went hiking in Snowdonia, which is a national park in north into central Wales here in the UK. And I made a video about her yesterday, 10 hours ago as I'm recording this, over on my other channel, Michelle Walks. But at the time of recording, it's only had 1.2k views. And that's why I'm using this platform where more eyes will get on it to publicise her case. But go back and watch the video on Michelle Walks for the backstory. According to the media, she is still missing. The BBC are reporting that there's been a couple of sightings of her, which is good news because at least it will give the police a timeline to work from. But she's been missing since Tuesday, and the weather here has changed from the lovely spring weather that it was a few days ago to wild, very windy and bouts of driving rain. Now I'm about an hour and a half away from where Osra was last seen. So our weather patterns are going to be similar. And I was awakened in the night by the driving rain against my bedroom window, and Osra's out there somewhere in that weather. She needs to be found. So the BBC are reporting that more than 60 rescue team volunteers have resumed the search for a woman who was last seen walking her dog. Osra Plungian, 56, from Prestatyn, set off with her black Swedish Lapphund. Oh, they're rare. Laphunds are rare. This is her dog. The dog is also missing. So there's been a multi-agency search for her, which was paused at 8 p.m. on Wednesday, but is due to resume on Thursday morning. Now, although the search teams on the ground had to pause, I'm assuming that they would have had the helicopter flying. I don't know though, because it's bad weather. It's bad weather out there. 2 possible sightings were also being investigated, North Wales Police said. The force said Miss Plungian is an experienced mountain walker who was well equipped for the conditions. So hopefully she's alive and just hunkered down somewhere. Maybe they're injured, but they do need to be found as a matter of urgency. Specially trained officers are supporting her family as the search continues. Superintendent Owen Llewellyn said, "We are desperately concerned about Osra's well-being, as are her family. A large search involving several organisations has been taking place all day in the mountains above Rowan, which is where her car was found." This is where the police found her car. She's obviously parked in a place where she began her hike, obviously. 65 volunteers, including members of the RAF Mountain Rescue Service, have been out on the hills in some extremely challenging conditions. It's absolutely horrendous for the family. So her car was found in a mountain car park in... I'm not going to try to pronounce that. I'm not going to try to pronounce that. So I'm sorry to my Welsh-speaking viewers. Buicky Dufan? Sorry, guys. So the car was found shortly after midnight on Wednesday. Police are investigating 2 possible sightings of her and her dog, called Iora, in the Cardew Mountains on Tuesday. Officers are appealing for anyone who may have been walking in that area on Tuesday with a dog to get in touch so they can rule these sightings out of their inquiries. Or continue to investigate them, obviously. The team is also investigating possible leads from a hill walking app Miss Plungian often uses to log her mountain routes. So it's good that they've got that. It's just a place to start because Snowdonia National Park is huge. And she told a friend that she was going on a 20-mile hike. Please don't conduct your own searches at the moment because the weather conditions are just too bad to have volunteers out there. It needs to be the emergency services who can deal with the conditions in Snowdonia. That's why I'm so concerned about her, because Snowdonia, it's an easy place to get lost in, and it has taken some lives, as Snowdonia. All right, so thank you for listening to that, and without further ado, let's get into the Nicola Bulley case. As I said, I think this story originated in the Daily Mirror. That's what other media outlets are reporting, and the Mirror are saying this is an exclusive. So, Nicola Bulley police are searching river for missing object, says ex-pathologist. And this is someone called Dr. Richard Shepherd. Specialist divers searching the river, so the River Wyre, near where missing mum's Nicola Bulley's body was found, are looking for a specific artefact, a forensic pathologist has claimed. Now, let's just bear in mind that this isn't the pathologist who is on Nicola Bulley's case. The person who conducted her autopsy would be a forensic pathologist. We're not talking about that person. This is just someone talking to the media, expressing an opinion. So as we know, she was last seen on January 27th walking her dog Willow near the river in St Michael's on Wyre in Lancashire. Her body was found on February 19th, just over a mile from where she went missing. So the specialist cops were seen in the area on April the 4th, less than a mile from where she was last seen. The weir where they were videoed is only 300 to 400 yards away from the bench. So yeah, much less than a mile. Her body was found downstream, about a mile or so downstream. I'll also say as well that a few people have told me that the police have been there on other days in other parts of the river. Now, I can't confirm that because no one's given video evidence of it, but apparently locals are saying the police have been there more than April the 4th, which may well be true. I've no reason to doubt that. You know, if they are out there investigating, then just looking at the weir, given that there's a mile stretch of river that they need to look at, it makes sense that they're going to be there on other days as well. So, Dr. Richard Shepherd, a forensic pathologist who worked on high-profile cases such as Stephen Lawrence and was called as an expert for Harold Shipman's trial, told the Mirror he thinks there's an item missing that police are looking for. Now, remember, this guy is not involved in Nicola's case. And that's him, looking quite ominous with a knife there. Interesting. Okay. Dr. Shepherd said, I'm really struggling to see what they could be looking for now that would affect or influence the cause of death. Somebody asked me whether they might be looking for her car keys. I don't think the coroner's going to send out a team just looking for the car keys. If the car keys weren't on her person and they've fallen out of her pocket, I don't know. I think they're out there looking at the conditions of the river, looking at things like flow patterns, looking at a possible path through that river that the body could have taken. Although it's possible that they're looking for something in particular, But what a needle in a haystack that would be. You know, a mile stretch of river of variable depth with sand and silt at the bottom and rocks and lots of debris. It is a needle in a haystack. I think there'd be more police out there. I think they'd be more visible. I think more people would have actually caught them on camera. I don't know though. I think personally it's to do with the river itself rather than looking for a particular object. When Nicola's body was found, it would have been taken to the morgue and a formal post-mortem would have been carried out, where it would have looked for natural diseases, any injuries, and samples would have been taken for alcohol or drugs. An inquest into her death is to be heard on Monday, June 26th at County Hall in Preston, as we know. What's this thing that's popped up? He added, they must have a reason to do it though. My guess is there's something like an artefact of some sort they are trying to make sure to find it. My sense is they want to be absolutely sure that something they can't quite locate isn't in the river. My feeling is they are looking for something specific. The last thing police want after the social media interest around this is for it to come out at the inquest there's something missing and then it gets randomly found by the public. That is true, actually. That is true. But how would a member of the public know that they were Nicola's car keys if they were looking for car keys? Or another suggestion is shoes. And I don't see how shoes would be relevant to the investigation. When asked if he thought it could be a possible reconstruction of events, Dr. Shepherd said, I think it's unlikely because once again, rivers are so variable. Even if you get a model or mannequin and put clothes on, or a real person, you couldn't possibly repeat what happened that day. Absolutely, that is something that I've been saying all along when people have said they should put a dummy in the river and see what path it takes. It's not the same. It's not the same. Even if you have a person who floats along in the river, it's not emulating the specific conditions of that day. So I do agree with him on that. I do. We know for years and years of people entering rivers and lakes and the sea that there is movement and there are things like reeds and branches where a body can get held under in particular places and then something is altered and the body comes free, so they wouldn't do a reconstruction in that context. I agree absolutely with that comment. I can't see what they are doing there in terms of death, especially in something as changing as a river. Even if it's a house where it was kept sealed, I'd still struggle to go back to find something to alter the cause of death. Yeah, I get what he's saying. I do. His Majesty's coroner confirmed in a statement yesterday they requested help from Lancashire Police to help produce information on the death of Nicola. A spokesman for HM Coroner told Lancashire Post the investigation will take time to complete to ensure that a complete picture as possible of the facts concerning Miss Bulley's death is presented at the inquest. This will assist the family in understanding what occurred. As part of this process, His Majesty's Senior Coroner has requested Lancashire Constabulary produce information gathered during the search for Miss Bulley so that it can be considered as part of the investigation. Well, they said that in February when she was found. A police spokesperson told the Mirror, we can confirm this is us carrying out some work, the direction of His Majesty's Coroner. I agree with him in terms of reconstructions and things like that wouldn't be useful. I'm not sure they're looking for a specific object. I think it's about river patterns, flow patterns, the depth of various parts of the river. But yeah, let's wait and see. Okay, so this is the comment that I was going to address this morning. So while we're here, I might as well address it. Now, I did reply to this person in the comment section, but I think it's a useful comment to highlight. This person says, based entirely upon the lack of detectable evidence upon the body, largely due to the state of decomposition, how can murder be concluded in this instance? Which doesn't mean that it was not murder, but only reveals a lack of proof, as skin and tissue etc. has decomposed into fluid jelly-like state. There is no blood evidence either, maybe. And then they go on to say that the police might be still observing certain persons. I don't think that's true because it's not a police investigation. It's a coroner's investigation. And then, as I've said again and again, A coroner's investigation is not a criminal court. So not unlimited post-mortem investigations based on mere level of decomposition alone destroyed evidence. Now I see where this person is coming from, because a body that has been in a river for 23 days, in fact a body in any conditions, unless it was frozen, is going to show signs of decomposition. But you'd be surprised how well preserved a body can be in water, especially in cold water. Now you've got to remember that Nicola was in the river for 23 days in January into February. It's cold. It's cold here in Lancashire, and even when conditions are mild that time of year, the water is still going to be very cold, and that actually slows down decomposition. It's not true that her skin and tissues will be in a fluid jelly-like state. Now I know this is not pleasant to talk about, but organs that tend to decompose first in situations where a body has been lying in the elements tends to be the brain. Some of the smaller internal organs show some significant decomposition. The top layers of the skin, the epidermis, might have sloughed off, but there will be tissues, the deeper tissues still there. There might be some skeletonization of things like their hands, possibly. In terms of animal activity, we don't have large river animals like alligators here in the UK. Yes, there's fish in the River Wyre that might nibble, I guess, and smaller water creatures. But Nicola was well clothed. I would imagine that it's only the extremities that have experienced significant decomposition, so the hands, the face. There'll be no damage to the bones, other than injuries that might have occurred at the point of death, and the deeper tissues will be still intact. And that's obviously just my opinion, but I can base this opinion on what we know about previous cases. If anybody's been watching the Letitia Stout trial a couple of days ago, they showed the autopsy photos of 11-year-old Gannon, who was murdered on the 27th of January 2020, and his body wasn't discovered until March 17th. His autopsy was conducted on March the 18th. So that's well over the 23 days that Nicola had been missing. And Gannon had been put in a suitcase and thrown over a bridge in Florida. And although some of the organs had showed significant decomposition, like the pancreas was non-existent, so essentially it's just, I want to say liquefied, but that's not the right word. The medical examiner was able to show that Gannon had 18 stab wounds, 4 blunt trauma wounds, and a gunshot. If you think about the major methods of murder, stabbing, shooting, strangulation, those kind of deaths, or even beating someone to death, would be still evidence in the deeper tissues. And if that injury had gone down to the bone, as was in the case in some of Gannon's injuries, would still be very evident in the body. And I'll give you another example. Now, this is controversial because this is the autopsy of Kylie Rodney. She entered a reservoir in California last summer. So this was a party on the night of the 5th of August into the early hours of the 6th of August, and her car was seen entering Prosser Reservoir at 12:33 a.m. or thereabouts. Now, the water in this case much warmer because it was summer and it was in California, not in the northwest of England. It was 16 days before her body and vehicle were located. And just looking at the autopsy report here, this is 16 days in hotter weather, compared to 23 days in a Lancashire winter. The vast majority of the body was intact. There was sloughing of hands and feet. There was significant decomposition on the face, but all of the body organs was intact. So this was someone who had been underwater for 16 days in a vehicle, but you know, fish were able to get into that vehicle, and you see that there's no evidence of things like strangulation. The hyoid bone and the cartilages surrounding it showed no fractures, no head injuries, no stabbing wounds, and all the deeper tissues are all still there. So in Nicola Bulley's case, I think if she'd been murdered, then you have to be looking at some potentially unusual types of murder. And they'd also know if she was dead when she entered the water. So I think the person who commented that it wouldn't be possible to exclude murder based on the information from the body, I don't think that's true. Obviously, if she was poisoned, then that would show up in the toxicology report. So an unusual type of murder, it would really have to be to outsmart a Home Office forensic pathologist. So there's that. That's just my opinion. Let me know what you think about all of this in the comments below. I've been Michelle. Hope you're well. I'll see you in the next video. It's goodbye from Miss Tillington and Miss Cassie Springer. Bye, guys.